its balance, its justice. Kendo was everything that Jedi are.
The Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice before the dark times.
When we started, a combination of samurai and Western sword fighting.
The originals, it feels like it's a spiritual thing.
4, 5, and 6, I kept improving the sword fighting. Faster, more intense.
The prequels, the fighting style was set. All we had to do was evolve it. Kendo became my base ingredient. You know the Kendo movie? The speed, the balance, the agility.
Kendo is fast, it's aggressive. There's an element of danger. Sign me up.
There is a saying in Kendo, 1,000 days training for one moment of reckoning. It's the way of the sword.
Welcome to the historic Palace Theater in downtown Los Angeles, California. I'm Mark Hamill. Nearly 40 years ago, I was cast as Luke Skywalker, the hero in the original Star Wars trilogy. The new chapter, Star Wars: The Force Awakens, is in theaters this Friday. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll take you behind the scenes of the Lightsaber Duels, those epic battles using this, perhaps the most iconic weapon in the history of cinema. We'll explore the real martial art behind the evolution of those duels, a sport called Kendo. And we'll journey to the 2015 Kendo World Championships in Japan. That is where our story begins, a long time ago, in a country far, far away. For a time in the late 60s, Japan was my home. My father was a captain in the Navy, and I went to Yokohama High School for 2 years. It was here as a teenager that I learned about Japanese culture, discovered its history, and the samurai, elite, noble military warriors, loyal until death.
戦いがいっぱいありました。必ずいい武将は相手を殺した後でも墓を建て、敬い、末代まで手を合わせて拝むというそういう風習が
That culture changed at the turn of the 17th century. The samurai gave up genjutsu, the art of killing.
戦国時代が過ぎますと、刀を日本刀を持って戦う必要がなくなった。そうした時に侍は自分の腕が落ちるんじゃないかということで日常的にやっぱり稽古をする。
So they began training with bamboo swords called shinai and created a sport, Kendo. Eventually, the legend of the samurai made its way to film. One of the most influential Japanese filmmakers was Akira Kurosawa, whose martial arts movies inspired many, including a certain director who would change my life forever.
Huge fan of Kurosawa's. The first one I saw was Seven Samurai, and after that I was completely hooked. I said, you know, this is really good.
George Lucas took inspiration from those samurai films, sci-fi adventures, and countless other influences to help create his own space opera.
Star Wars, coming this summer.
When we first started filming in March of 1976, the samurai influence was clearly evident. I saw it in Darth Vader, in his armor and his mask, and in the Jedi Master, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
George Lucas suggested to me something of a samurai warrior in one way, hence I'm partly dressed like this.
Hello there.
250, take 7.
For over 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic.
Jedi were like marshals in the Old West. You know, they're the keepers of the peace.
Your father's lightsaber. This is the weapon of a Jedi Knight. An elegant weapon, but a more more civilized age.
George wanted a lightsaber because he wanted Errol Flynn with the sword, and it was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, so they wouldn't have swords, so what could they have? And he came up with the idea of a laser sword.
Eventually, George changed the name of laser sword to lightsaber.
This idea of the lightsaber and the idea of this blade and the sort of myth that comes with the blade, it wasn't just a weapon. There was a great power to the story behind it.
In order to create a unique style of sword fighting for the Star Wars universe, George brought in Peter Diamond, legendary stuntman and coordinator.
Peter Diamond combined several different kinds of sword fighting. It was a combination of Errol Flynn, Seven Samurai, Kurosawa sword fighting.
Then on June 1st, 1976, came the first ever lightsaber duel between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader.
When I left you, I was the learner. Now I am the master.
Only a master of evil, Darth.
Sir Alec Guinness did his own swordplay. So did David Prowse, the man inside the Vader suit.
Alec Guinness had been trained to do sword fighting on stage, sort of Shakespearean duels.
If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
In the original script, the character Obi-Wan Kenobi was meant to survive. But during shooting, it became clear that for the sequence to work, Kenobi had to be killed off in a lightsaber duel. This gave life to a crucial point of the saga's lore.
By sacrificing himself, and Kenobi shows to Luke Skywalker that there's something beyond life.
Run, Luke, run.
The idea of sacrifice is part of the samurai code.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
In the next chapter, The Empire Strikes Back, I would get my chance to use a lightsaber. On the ice planet Hoth, in the swamps of Dagobah, and finally, on Cloud City. As part of my training, I lifted weights, studied martial arts. I also learned kendo for the first time.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3.
The final battle took weeks of rehearsal and even longer to film the scene. We expanded the lightsaber duel by adding acrobatics and detailed choreography. They even brought in Bob Anderson, England's 1952 Olympic fencer, to fight as Vader.
They had a special stunt Vader helmet that he wore so he could see better, bringing a level of skill to Darth Vader's swordsmanship that otherwise would be lacking.
The original line from Vader was, "Obi-Wan killed your father." But little did I know, the script had changed.
I am your father.
We had created a new style of lightsaber battle and took the first step into a larger world.
I kept improving the sword fighting, faster and more intense, as Luke became more proficient in the art of sword fighting.
When we reached Return of the Jedi, it was all about the final duel, this time in the Emperor's throne room.
Seeing the two of them fighting together, I felt that I was witnessing iconic history of the sword fight.
Luke's hope, fear, and anger poured out in the duel with his father.
Never. I'll never turn to the dark side. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
My journey as Luke Skywalker was complete, but little did we know, it was just the beginning. Ahead, the evolution, the sport behind it, and an exclusive look behind the scenes of Star Wars: The Force Awakens. This is SC Featured. This is Evolution of the Lightsaber Duel.
We have something called Ki, which is your spirit. You're not too angry, you're not too sad, you're not too happy. You're mentally and emotionally there to actually strike.
In Kendo, two combatants duel with bamboo swords called shinai for 3 two-minute rounds. A point is awarded by striking the head, torso, wrist, or throat. The first individual to score 2 points, awarded by 3 judges, wins the match.
There is a saying in Kendo, 1,000 days training for one moment of reckoning.
Every 3 years, hundreds of competitors come from more than 50 countries to crown the best on the planet. And in the spring of 2015, the 16th World Kendo Championships were held in Tokyo, Japan. The Japanese martial art of Kendo was evolved from the ancient samurai philosophy to mold the mind, body, and spirit. I studied Kendo while training for my lightsaber duels as Luke. And as thrilling as the final fight was in The Return of the Jedi, it was released in 1983. When the saga resumed, it was 1999. In those 16 years, it was Kendo that grew to become the cornerstone of the next generation of lightsaber duels.
I was looking for a kind of sword fighting that was reminiscent of what was in the movies that we'd already done, but a more energized version of it. So to see a Jedi in his prime fighting in the prime of the Jedi, I wanted it to be a much more energetic and faster version of what we've been doing.
The fighting style was set. All we had to do was evolve it.
Acclaimed British stunt coordinator Nick Gillard was brought in to execute a new vision in The Phantom Menace.
I like that there.
Kendo became my base ingredient.
You know the Kendo movie?
Kendo, in, chop, parry, hit. In Star Wars, that became bang, parry, chop, hit.
It would take 2 Jedi at once to take on a new villain, Darth Maul, played by martial arts expert Ray Park.
When I landed the role of Darth Maul, we were training, 10 to 15 hours a day. We were there all day. I have all this wushu and kung fu style, but when you have the double-bladed lightsaber in your hand, the style changes. The end fight with Obi-Wan, the lightsaber gets broken in half. Normally I would use one hand in wushu, because that's what we do, one hand, but it was two-handed. So that's where that Kendo style came out. And then at the end, Darth Maul got a little too cocky.
Good guys are green and blue, bad guys are red. That's just the way it works.
You go purple,
You might get purple.
Even though we were thinking about Kendo, we hadn't yet fully gone into it until episode 2.
I'm such a fan of Japanese samurai movies, and I watched a lot of Kendo fights. I'm doing pretty good at it.
The fight with Anakin and Dooku is Kendo. Dooku goes straight into a Kendo pose, and we just turned Anakin. That fight was originally just Anakin and Dooku. It changed, and George brought in Obi and Yoda.
For the first time, we would see a fully computer-generated character in a lightsaber duel in Master Yoda.
Farewell you have, my old Padawan.
The duels were extensive and pervasive in the final installment of the prequels, Revenge of the Sith. And there would be another reveal from the dark side of the Force.
You're under arrest, Chancellor.
Are you threatening me, Master Jedi? When I was handed the script of Revenge of the Sith, I noticed that Palpatine had a lightsaber fight. So I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to become a Kendo expert. It was easy to demolish the first set of guys, but then fighting with Sam was a little more complicated.
Initially, most of the dueling would be left to McDermott's body double. But the day of the shoot, George had other ideas.
George needed me to be convincing in the mid-shots and the close-ups, so I had to learn the routines.
I mean, we had 10 minutes to teach Ian that fight.
There you go.
Sam, he was terrific and was very patient with me. I think I hit him over the head a couple of times, but it was a very fast shoot because we were always moving on to the next scene.
After months of training and weeks of filming came the ultimate battle between Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi and Hayden Christensen's Anakin Skywalker.
And you've got to do it to such a degree where you don't have to think about it. it's got to become fluid.
There gets to a point where they've become better at it than you and the doubles. That's when kendo becomes a beautiful thing. The speed, balance, the violence. Kendo was everything that Jedi and Sith are.
Which brings us back to Japan and the 2015 World Kendo Championships. The main event is the men's team competition. The final 4 teams are Brazil, Korea, Japan, and Team USA, competing for its first ever gold medal.
Japan has won every single time, except for in 2006. So Japan is obviously the favorite.
It's not all about the ability, right? It's all about your heart. We're gonna take them down.
When we return, who will win the Kendo Championship? Also, behind-the-scenes footage from Star Wars, The Force Awakens.
Kendo is fast, it's aggressive. As an image, it looks really beautiful.
This is SC Featured. This is Evolution of the Lightsaber Duel. Korea defeats Team USA in the other semifinal. Japan wins the men's team title for the 15th time in 16 World Championship appearances. The Kendo World Championships won't return until 2018. In the meantime, you can see elements of Kendo in Star Wars: The Force Awakens, featuring a new character named Finn, played by John Boyega.
I've always wanted to swing a lightsaber.
The incredible stunt team was providing the actors with the skills they needed. And Kendo obviously was an approach that allowed them to bring to life these intense fights that they had planned.
One of our trainers trained in the art of Kendo, and he was really particular about stance, about the mentality.
The posture, the foot movements, the speed at which you move your feet. There's very specific strikes, but it's really the focus where you have the clarity and that calmness to it.
It's a spiritual thing. Like Kendo, it's great to have those close core combat kind of moves. So it's an element of danger, and it's fast, it's aggressive, but at the same time, as an image, it looks really, really beautiful in a sense, and I think that's what JJ's going to capture.
For me, the thing that was the most powerful were the lightsaber fights from the original trilogy.
It is useless to resist.
They were incredibly emotional and very powerful. In Force Awakens, we tried to approach it from the point of view of a rougher, more primitive kind of fight as opposed to a more choreographed one.
Star Wars: The Force Awakens is in theaters Friday. The character Finn is the latest to wield a lightsaber in a celebrated history that includes Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, and his son, a kid named Luke. I'm Mark Hamill, and the Force will be with you always.